Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Spark podcast once again. I'm your host, Jack Goodwin, and I'm joined by two regular guests, Mo Patel and Adam Reek. How are you both?
Good, mate?
Yeah, not
too bad. Adam, you're a Sunderland fan and you're here talking about North End, I believe.
Yeah, I've been dragged on by Mo to give my views, I suppose. Obviously, League One and League Two, I can offer you a little bit more on each team, each manager.
Yeah, you certainly can. And we're also joined by GB swimmer Jack Bridge. Jack, how are you?
I'm great, mate. Thanks. Yeah, and it's great to be on the podcast.
Yeah, and you've had a busy 24 hours, really, haven't you? You've been all over. Radio Lancashire, weren't you, just a couple hours ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the post-match show with Alan Kelly, Andy Bays. Dave Seddon made an appearance. Yeah, it was good. We had some good conversations about what's going on at Deepdale and where we see the team going over the next kind of 8 games, and then looking a little bit ahead into the future in the summer to see if someone can come in and change our fortunes.
Yeah, so exactly that. Alex Neil has left his post as Preston North End manager, and Frankie McAvoy has been appointed as interim head coach until the end of the season. But we expect there to be a change in the summer. So we've come up with 4 categories of which each manager we're going to look at, and we're going to put them into. So first of all, your top list is I want. So it's your sort of your number one target. Then you'd have I'd have him. So you'd be happy, you'd be content with him. Then the next category is I'd rather not. And then the last category is hell no. So you want to stay as clear away from this. So obviously Adam is looking at it from a Sunderland fan's perspective, but he will be looking out for what will be in North End's best interest. Adam, don't you run a page on Twitter?
Yeah. FBL 72. It's got 40,000 followers, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about.
And so we're going to start off with Michael Appleton, who seems to be the one that the majority of the North End fans want at the moment. Mo, what are you thinking of Michael Appleton? Do you think it would be a good appointment?
Yeah, I think Appleton would be a fairly decent appointment. I know people look at it like he's a downgrade to Neil, but realistically, he's done a good job at Lincoln. He's done a rebuild before at Plymouth. Correct me if I'm wrong, and Lincoln. So we're going to have rebuild in the summer, lots of ins, lots of outs. He's been an assistant manager at this level before, working at both Leicester and West Brom. I do feel he sets the sides up to play nice football, and it'll be good to watch. Good attacking football. I've watched him on a few occasions this season, and they are a joy to watch. So I would say Michael Appleton would be a fairly decent appointment.
Which category do you think you'd like him to be in?
I don't know it is, but from the manager's link with a job, and we will discuss as it goes on, Michael Appleton's probably like towards the top, so I'd probably put him in the top category, in my opinion.
So you want him?
Has he not just signed a 4-year contract at Lincoln?
Yeah, he has. But I'm just saying, I'm going off the basis of if we could get him, then I'd say yeah. But realistically, he's just signed a 4-year contract, so it might not be possible.
Well, I'm looking at it the perspective as if Preston North End cannot attract Lincoln City's manager, then something is clearly wrong. I know Lincoln are a club on the upwards trajectory, but surely a club of North End size, and Michael Appleton being based in Preston, and his son being a North End fan and a former North End player, then something's wrong if North End are unable to attract him. But the thing that I'm not so sure about is whether Hemmings and Riddler would be willing to pay out these contracts.
Yeah, there's that, and I think Lincoln's a really exciting prospect. That, like Mo said, they're playing some really, really good football. That pretty much top of League One. Would he want to leave that project that he's spent his time and effort putting in? I'm not so sure. But again, we were saying this on the Radio Lancs show this tonight, that Preston North End is a historically big club. Everyone that knows football knows Preston North End, and I agree with your point, Jack, that if Preston North End can't attract the Lincoln City manager, then there's something obviously wrong with the branding of the club. But yeah, I think it'd be too expensive, and I just don't. I think his next managerial job might be Preston North End, but I don't think it's just yet.
I think Appleton makes sense as well because of what he's doing at Lincoln is on a small budget. I mean, the loan market, for me, Lincoln has smashed the loan market in League One. They're the best side for me. They've brought in Brennan Johnson, Alex Palmer, and Callum Morton. That's 3 players who were very good. And like you say, for me, Preston, well, they don't have a budget really, do they? It is, I suppose, not penny pinching, but trying to do everything on the cheap. And I think if Appleton was offered it, I think you'd want to go because, yeah, Lincoln are 4th, but their best player, George Grant, is injured until the rest of the season, I think. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Lincoln slip out the playoffs. That's a big shout, but I think they've only won 1 of the last 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't look the same team with George Grant in. And I think now, if Appleton wants to go, he could, I suppose, leave Lincoln 4th. It all looks pretty, even though it looks as if they're going to go on a downward spiral, and get a better job.
Yeah, that's certainly an option. So Mo, you're wanting to stick him in the top bracket as I want.
Yeah.
Okay, so straight away we've gone in with number 1. Adam, I'm coming to you. So obviously from looking from the outside in, Crewe Alexandra's manager, David Artell, he's doing wonderful things there. Do you think he would do good things at North End?
It all depends on, because I think every fan's the same. When you're looking to bring in a new manager, the manager that you're bringing in isn't going to replicate the exact same process that they've implemented at the current club at the new club. It all depends on the players that they've got at their disposal. And I mean, for Crewe, over the last, well, obviously last year, to this year, you know, he took them up. He's got them outside shot for the playoffs again. Heavy focus on the full-backs and the wingers into play. And I'm just thinking, is that something that Preston really have? Do you have those attacking full-backs to get in behind and overlap? Because you saw how good Harry Pickering and Perry NG has been for Crewe. And they've got moved to the Championship now because of David Artell and because of the way he's got them playing. Now, yeah, you might say, yeah, he's done well, get him in, but is he going to do the same? I mean, Charlie Kirk is a perfect example of Crewe. He's not quick, he's not the best dribbler, but his final ball is perfect. And for me, when I watch Preston play, you don't really... I mean, do you feel as if when you score goals, it's not like as if it's being worked on? It's a bit lucky kind of thing. Or we've just managed to get the ball in their half in the final third. Or we've scored, brilliant. It's not really... There's no like patterns of play. And I think that's what David Artell puts across into his sides. And he's done really well, but I don't think he would be the right fit for Preston personally.
So David Artell, is there any particular category you'd put him in? I'd rather not.
What's the one second bottom? Stay away.
I'd rather not.
Oh, I'd rather not. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone?
I don't want. I'll be honest. I've not watched Crewe many times, but I have watched him on a couple of occasions. And Adam's probably summed it up perfectly. He's not a bad manager, but he just don't suit. His managerial skills, I probably wouldn't say they suit the best towards us. So I'd probably say I'd rather not.
Yeah.
I tend to disagree a little bit. I think in the summer we'll have players coming back into the team. Josh Hill coming back from loan. There's a possibility that, and I know Tom Barkhazen's played at wing back on a few occasions. So the style of play wouldn't kind of put me off. More of an experience at this kind of level and trying to do it in the Championship, I think it's a totally different ball game. I think that the leap in talent and quality from League One to the Championship is quite big. So I'd probably agree with you that it'd be in my kind of, I wouldn't say that I definitely don't want him, but it'd be on the kind of lesser side of I've wanted him, just on the fact of the experience more than anything else. But I do think we need a new identity, a new style of play, because as I'm sure every North End fan will agree with me that it's just become a bit stale, the style of play. It's recycle the ball, it's pump it up to whoever's leading the line, try and nick a second ball and then try and get through break through the midfield and defence, which normally when teams come to Deepdale, they sit in a low block and it's really tough to break down. So I do feel that we need a a really different style of play, and that's something that I enjoy watching. Flying fullbacks there's nothing kind of more exciting than watching fullbacks run up and down the wings and provide decent balls and quality into the box.
Yeah, well, certainly something that Artell has thrived on at Crewe is that they've got a good youngster system there. You know, they're able to get players through from the youth team, and they've got a good youth team there. We don't really have that under 20. Well, we don't have an under 23 side, so you know, players are getting the contract at 18 and then they're not playing football for years unless they're getting loans out to semi-professional sides. So it's whether Artell would suit us, but we'll put him in the I'd rather not category. Jack, coming to you next. We're going to look at the interim head coach, Frankie McAvoy. Do you think he's got a realistic chance of getting the job?
I think Peter Ridsdale and Trevor Hemmings have given Frankie as much of an opportunity, and it's a massive opportunity. Let's get that right. It's a massive opportunity for him to kind of prove a point and prove his worth at this football club. I think he's got a great backroom staff in terms of Steve Thompson and Paul Gallagher. You know those guys know the club. They've been there for the past 5 or 6 years, and Steve Thompson, Gally's been there a bit longer, and they know the club in and out. And I think they're going to be reliant on the senior players, so the Greg Cunninghams, the Paul Huntingtons, the Alan Browns, to kind of help the team transition from that period under Alex Neil where it became stale. But I just think where the club is right now, they just needed a different voice, and maybe that'll bring a new motivation, a new style of play. And Frankie's his own man. Let's get that right. He's not Alex Neil's double. He's not Alex Neil in makeup. He's his own man, and he'll have his own ethos and his own identity that he wants to put on that football team. And I think the only way that, well, the first thing that Frankie needs to get done is to make sure that the football club's secure. And I think 3 points will do that. I think we're only 3 points away from safety, in my opinion. Some people might disagree. But once we've got those 3 points, it's time just to take stock in the summer, and then go from there. I wouldn't be opposed to him taking the job on a full-time basis if what he brings, if what's produced in the next 8 games is something that's attractive and that the fans can get behind. I can't see why it would be a bad appointment at all. We've had great successes with assistant managers in the past in terms of, you look at Billy Davis, you look at Gary Peters, you look at David Moyes, you look at Alan Irvine, who have all come into the football club and done wonders. So for me right now as a Preston fan, there's been some horrible things said on social media about Alex Neil. And I get it. People are, they're entitled to their own opinion, but it's now time to get behind Frankie and the boys for the last 8 games and try and focus on just making sure that we're safe and we have a football club in the Championship at the start of the 21-22 season. So to answer your question, I wouldn't be opposed to taking him. I'd quite happily have Frankie with a caveat of the 8 games that are to come at the end of the season. There's a sign of some change, some the quality that we have in the squad comes out, and there's a kind of new identity and a new direction the team's going in.
So is it you want him, or is it more you'd have him?
Yeah, I'd have him. It wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone strongly disagree?
No, I wouldn't strongly disagree. Right now, I'd probably say I wouldn't take him. But as you said, if he comes in and has a good strong to the end of the season, you see it often when an assistant manager does well, it's likely they will get the job. And if he does start playing nice football and we start picking up results, it's a results-based business for me. But if he does do well, then we probably would take him. I don't think anyone would disagree. But right now, obviously, we don't know much. But I said yesterday on the pod as well, I'm guessing it'll be similar to Neil's style of play, being his number 2 and following him everywhere he's been.
I was just going to say, it's his own man and he'll have his own thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Alex Neil gets paid to make those decisions, and sometimes he might disagree with Frankie. So I firmly believe that there'll be some form of difference between Alex Neil and Frankie. But again, we can sit here and say we'd want him, but we just need to see how the next 8 games go. Yeah,
couldn't put it better.
So moving on to the next name, I've got Neil Harris written down, who's been quite heavily backed in the North End markets in terms of the bookmakers. For me, he's done a good job. He did a really good job at Millwall, taking them up, and that one season where it was similar to the season we had under Neil, really, where we finished 7th, they finished 7th, just missed out. And then he did well with Cardiff, really, last year, turning them around and finishing the playoffs. But it all went a bit crap really this year, didn't it? And it was probably deserved sacking. And you see that the impact that Mick McCarthy's had on that blue side, that clearly something wasn't working out for Neil Harris. For me, this one stands out to me as it's no upgrade on Alex Neil. You know, if we're going to sack Alex Neil, we've got to either take a risk at someone who's, you know, never had this opportunity before, or someone that has, you know, got promotion before or finished in the playoffs before. And I know Neil Harris has, but he's never really got over the final line. And I'm not sure. I just don't think his style of play will be easy on the eye. I mean, Alex Neil's obviously coming for a lot of criticism this year for his style of play. Neil Harris's sides aren't exactly fast-flowing, total football sort of teams. They do score goals. They're not just sitting back. They're not Pulis ball, but they're not really your sort of front foot attacking team. I don't know what you think, but I'd probably put him in I'd rather not category.
I think he screams 14th. That's if you point him, you'll end up mid-table. And I said before, Preston must be such a frustrating team to support because of how repetitive it is every season. And I think Neil Harris, he won't take you down and he won't take you higher. You'll just be 14th come the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I think Cardiff have spent quite a lot. He spent quite a lot of money last summer, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
In the lead up to this season, and to see kind of none of that kind of pay fruition, and to see the impact that a manager like Mick McCarthy has. Obviously, he's got an abundance of experience both in the Championship, in the Premier League, and internationally as well. And to see, you know, the impact he's had is, you know, credit to the Cardiff owners for getting Mick in. But yeah, I totally agree. I definitely wouldn't be excited. It's not an exciting appointment to hire Neil Harris. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Adam. I think it's definitely not for me.
Okay, so he goes in to the no category. Moving on, Mo, we've got a former North End captain, Callum Davidson, who's doing good things at St Johnstone.
Yeah, Davidson. The first time I heard of him being linked with a job was when you mentioned it, and it wasn't one that came to my mind at first, but when I've actually looked into it and watched a few of the St Johnstone games this season, the highlights, I feel like he has done a good job. This season, top half finish, they won the cup. You don't really see any teams in the league have a chance of winning the cup bar Rangers and Celtic, so that's an achievement of itself. He's had some experience at the likes of Leicester and Stoke. So he has got a little bit of experience there, and he is a former club captain. So I feel like he wouldn't be a bad appointment. I'd probably take it. It's a bit of a gamble, but it's someone that I'd be fairly excited about being appointed.
Yeah, I kind of agree, really. When the sort of Neil Albergrade started to come and you had to start considering, who would you go? It was just when I turned on my TV one day and saw St Johnstone in the final. It's like, this is Callum manages. And, I had no idea because I don't really watch much Scottish football, but I have a mate who's a St Johnstone fan, and he was a big admirer of the stuff Callum's doing in his first job there. And even though he's 44, which isn't like really young for a manager, but he's kind of, you can tell that he's grafted because he's been the assistant manager at St Johnstone. He was Gary Rowett's assistant manager at Stoke and Millwall. So it's like he's done the hard work, and now his first season in charge, he's done really well, you know, finishing in the top half as well. So I think Callum Davidson is someone that, if we're going to take a risk, I'd like us to plunge in him. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that.
So yeah, it's a solid appointment. I mean, like Mo said, is, you know, former club captain, knows the club inside and out, and I always got the impression when Callum played on the pitch for us that he was a natural leader. Once Graham Alexander kind of left the club, he took the captain's armband. Him and Paul McKenna, and you always felt like you had a leader on the pitch who was always barking orders and making sure that the men he was on the pitch with were giving blood, sweat and tears for the badge of Preston North End. And I'm sure if he came in to do a job here at Deep Dale as a manager, he'd do exactly the same with the current crop of players that we've got right now. So it'd be a solid appointment. Again, for me, I have to say it's not an exciting appointment. But like you said, he's done the hard yards as an assistant up and down the country. So yeah, let's just see what happens.
Yes, so we'll put him in. I want to put him in I want category. Does anyone say, because I know what you just said, Jack, is it you'd rather just have him rather than he'll be one of your top targets?
Yeah, I'd take him. I would take him, but I wouldn't say he'd be my top of my list.
Okay.
I'd probably Jack on that one.
Yeah, okay. Which Jack? Wait, there's two Jacks here.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, Adam, coming to you, another lower league manager, Ryan Lowe at Plymouth Argyle. What do we make of him?
Well, do you want a striker who can score? Because that's what he'll give you. Obviously, his career, it started before Plymouth. Obviously, he took Bury up playing 3-4-3. I don't know if that's something that would interest you. Got Nicky Maynard scoring goals again. Took them up. Obviously, the Bury thing happened. Went to Plymouth, took them up, and he's got them in the middle of League One. Yeah, so basically it's just 3-4-3 and he gets his strikers scoring. Luke Jeffcott, he's got firing them in this year. I mean, based on Preston's squad, and obviously, let's say you had a transfer window, is that something that you'd like to see? Would you like to see a 3-4-3 with... It's 3-4-3, it sounds like exciting, like, oh, let's get everyone forward. But I feel as if it's very staggered in his approach to the games. He likes to, I suppose, play a bit more narrow. He's the outside forwards aren't as wide as some forms of the 3-4-3, but he gets his strikers scoring, I suppose. And obviously, you've just got that big lad from, is it Denmark? Did you get him in?
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm a striker and I'm in that pressing squad, I'm looking at that because, as I said can you remember my tweet last year, Mo?
Yeah.
There was a point in the season last year, I put on, I don't think Preston fans could believe it. Preston's strikers accounted for 5% of their goals. That was at the end of lockdown, the end of the first lockdown when football play stopped. So it would be a nice change to see a striker banging them in, to be fair.
Yeah,
Agreed,
well,
sorry, Mo.
we've not, our strikers over the years, we've had Sean Maguire who were playing week in, week out. He just couldn't score. Like, I think it was more of a psychological thing. I'm talking the last 2 seasons after his injury. He struggled for goals. Emil Reese has been stop-start. I think Cheddar's had been a good addition, but since Ched's come in, Emil's not had a sniff. Neither's Maguire up front, and Stotley's gone out on loan. So a striker scoring goals, we've not had that for years.
Agreed. I think we've been far too reliant for a number of years on our midfielders, our creative players, our wide players with goals. So if someone could come in to kind of galvanise that forward, that number 9 position. Jordan Hugel had a good half a season at North End. He was banging them in for fun. He was on target to hit well into the mid-teens in terms of before he went over to join David Moyes at West Ham. But yeah, the last few seasons, our top scorers have been attacking midfielders in terms of Alan Brown, Daniel Johnson. So again, it needs something that needs addressing, and maybe like a change of style as well would be advantageous to us, and just to try and get strikers in, because seeing strikers score goals, it's what fans want to see at the end of the day, isn't it? It's all right seeing an attacking midfielder or a defender score, but what you really want is what we pay the money for, and that's to see strikers score goals. So if someone can come in and do that for us, then I'm for it.
I think he should go down as half on the list.
Okay, we'll put him there. Moving on to another manager that has had good record in the Football League, perhaps not in Germany, Jack. David Wagner, former Huddersfield and Schalke manager. What do you make of him?
He's got good stock. I think he started his managerial career. I think he finished his playing career at the end of the 2010s, and then joined Klopp, who was his teammates at Mainz, to join Borussia Dortmund and their second team. Again, great stock, great coaching pedigree in terms of learning from Jurgen Klopp. Came over here initially to join Klopp in the background staff at Liverpool before taking up the Huddersfield job. Did a fantastic job, made some really, really good signings. So Danny Ward, Chris Lowe, and Aaron Moy, the ones that kind of come to mind in terms of quite solidly done deals. Again, Huddersfield didn't have the world's biggest budget in the Championship, and they managed to grind out results, and they managed to grind out a fantastic Wembley win and go up through the playoffs, which, and you know, as North End fans, we've done obviously from League One back into the Championship. I'm not massively sure if it'd be a really good appointment. Again, it'd bring a different voice, a different style of play, which would be something that the North End fans would maybe appreciate. But I don't see it as being a long-term solution to Alex Neil leaving. So I probably would take him, but I can't see him lasting more than 3 or 4 seasons.
I personally see this one as someone that needs to rebuild his reputation, because he was getting talked about being linked to the Chelsea job and maybe replacing Klopp when Klopp leaves Liverpool, when he kept Huddersfield up that season, because the job he had done at that point was miraculous, and it all fell a bit down really in his second season in the Premier League. But that's expected with, you know, we've seen it with Chris Wilder. He's still a top manager, but then at Schalke, it's not gone brilliant. But again, is it all his fault because no one else has been able to solve the situation on the other 27 managers they've had this season? So it's a strange one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's massively important to understand that sometimes managers put their faith in, and rightly so, in the quality of their players. And when you lose such a massive player, so for me, Sheffield United's biggest downfall this year, I know it's not related to David Wagner, but the loss of Dean Henderson's have been absolutely massive for them. And just losing that 1 or 2 key players can have a drastic effect on the team's performance. You can say the same for Neil in terms of losing Ben Davis, Ben Pearson, although they hadn't had the greatest season so far. It ultimately cost Neil his job. And I feel like, again, David Wagner, yeah, he needs to rebuild his reputation. Would I want him doing that at Preston North End? Probably not. But again, I wouldn't be opposed to him being manager, because I think he'd bring a different style, a more aggressive style of play, high pressing game, which we have the quality of players to do.
One thing
I just don't see him being a long term.
Is if he goes to Preston to rebuild his reputation, if he does rebuild his reputation in the Premier League. So I think it's one of them where balance it all out. Is it worth taking the risk? Probably is.
It's true.
I'll agree with Adam with that one. He's took Huddersfield to the Premier League, and we've never been to the Premier League. 49 other English clubs have been to the Premier League. It just feels like that's everyone's end goal, getting us promoted. I'm not thinking more 4 or 5 years down the line. If someone can get us to the promised land, do I feel Wagner can? Potentially. He did it with Huddersfield on a similar budget. Even if he stays for a couple of years, but if you look at the long term, like Huddersfield, you'll end up back in the Championship. I probably would take Wagner personally.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Adam and Mo there. So I'll move up to I want category, the top category. Coming on to the next one, Mo. Currently the bookmaker's favourite and Preston North End legend, Gareth Ainsworth.
Ainsworth, I love the bloke. He loves the club, clearly, when he came to Deepdale. We all know he was just stood there looking at the Southampton finish stand and taking it all in. I feel like he's done a good job at Wickham, getting him up to the Championship on a very low budget. Do I feel like he'll be a good appointment? Probably not, because obviously Wickham inevitably going down. Not entirely his fault, of course, with the squad he's got, but just playing long ball football, it's not attractive on the eye. It's not really an appointment that would excite me. I'd like to see Ainsworth come to Preston one day once he's got a bit more experience, maybe have more time in the managerial game. But right now, it wouldn't be an appointment that'd excite me personally.
I agree with more on this. Obviously, being a Sunderland fan, we played them. We hate Wickham. I'll tell you that they would have never gone up on points if points per game never came into place. Anyway, they got up, lucky, but the football is just horrendous. They came to the Stadium of Light. Goalkeeper wasting time in the 10th minute, and it's worked because I'm talking about it 2 years later. So imagine how annoyed I was at the game. It gets on your back, but I don't know. It's just, for me, Preston, you need to start, because you've just appointed a data analysis and player performance analysis and stuff, haven't you? So I think to get Gareth Ainsworth in, you're just going backwards. This is your chance to finally be a modern football club, build forward, get foundations built into play. And there's someone who's on the list that I think is perfect. I won't say his name right now, but Gareth Ainsworth, as Mo said, Gareth Ainsworth looks at it as a results business. And Preston, you need to be bigger than that. You need to work on foundations first before you start looking at every result as Saturday 5 p.m. because that's not going to get you to the Premier League. You've tried that for however many years, just trying to win football matches. It needs to be from the ground up. The backroom staff, everything needs to be spawned. And Gareth Ainsworth, he would just destroy that chances of happening personally. I think fair play for what he's done at Wickham, but if he ever came to my football club, I'd be good.
I see what you're saying, Adam, but again, there's, and I'm sure some North End fans will agree with me, there's bigger problems at play in terms of sorting out that foundation of the football club that goes through the hierarchy of the football club. And at the end of the day, if Trevor Hemmings doesn't want to pay for those foundations to be in place, then we're just not going to have them. But I have to strongly agree with, strongly disagree with both of you. I think Gareth Ainsworth would be someone which would galvanise the fans. It would galvanise the city to come back and support the football team, because one of my first memories of being a season ticket holder at Deepdale was seeing Gareth Ainsworth run himself into the ground for that, that second spell he had at the club, where one image that sticks in my mind is he had bandages on his head and bleeding through. He literally put everything he had for Preston North End. And I know a certain, majority of the Preston fan base, especially on social media, would agree with me that a manager's only good as what he's got to play with. And I think Gareth Ainsworth is not, like, his full ability is not being shown at what he's doing at Wickham. He prepares teams knowledgeably. He's beat us twice this year out of three games. We played them twice at Adams Park, and a draw at Deepdale, which probably they should have won as well. So for me, I'd absolutely adore Gareth Ainsworth to be the manager, because I think that what he can do, not just for rebuilding the fan base that was lost during the Graham Wesley era, and really galvanising the fan base to come back to Deepdale. And that's something that I'm screaming for. Going to Deepdale and seeing, 13, 14,000 is not exciting. And if we can have a manager who literally begs the players and shows the fans, what he did for the football club as a player, and if he can kind of transform that into in doing that as a manager, then I'd be all for it. And the Gareth Ainsworth potential signing really, really excites me. So for me, it's a definite. It's on to you, Jackie, to get the final vote.
No.
It's a difficult one, because I think on the one hand he has to. Well, I think he's playing a certain way to get Wickham, who were right at the low ebbs of League Two, to the Championship. You have to play a certain way. You can't, with Wickham's budget, if you're going to play attractive football, you're going to be in MK Dons position and be mid-table. But I know, like Adam said, it's a work in progress. I get that point from Jack, that the whole situation is that Ainsworth will come in and galvanise the fans.
It's an emotional appointment, I think.
Yeah. How long would that last? Because once you're actually just watching the game, you're not watching the manager on the sideline. And if it does play the same way as he does at Wickham, is it really going to bring back 18,000 fans to watch a ball going up from one end to the next? It's going to be like the Beck era all over again. I know I wasn't alive, but I've been told by many people that was a pretty horrendous watch. So I think I'm going to side with Mo and Adam, but rather, I don't think we'll put him in the hell no situation. We'll put him in the I'd rather not category. Moving on to the next one, I'm going to shoehorn two managers into one. So Adam, coming to you, both lower league managers. You've got Michael Duff of Cheltenham and Russ Martin of MK Dons. Would you take either of them?
The second name is the fellow I was on about earlier. Russell Martin is my favourite manager in the EFL. What he's doing at MK Dons is fantastic. I don't know if you saw the interview, but basically they went on about 5 or 6 games without a win and stuff. And he was getting getting peppered by the fans. Or go plan B. And he turned around and said, "What is plan B? Do you want me to kick it up to the striker? That's what plan B is?" And he said, "I won't do that. I have my principles and I'm sticking to them." And we've played MK Dons 3 times this season Obviously, we played them in the home, away, in the brilliant Papa John's Trophy. And each time I've watched the match and I've thought, wow, I'd absolutely love Russell Martin at Sunderland. Just look at data. Look at the data. It's magnificent. He's high possession, touches in the opposition boxes, receiving deep, progressive passing. It's amazing. And I think it's something that, personally, I don't want him to go to Preston because I want him to stay at MK Dons until he can get the Norwich job. But that's just me being selfish because I rate him that highly, Russell Martin. But no, the football that he's got MK Dons playing is superb. And if he could emulate that at Preston, then like you said earlier, Jack, you need a new identity and you bring that. And especially with the new the fact that you go on the data route kind of thing with the new appointments inside the club, I think that would be fantastic. Duff, on the other hand, his strength is keeping the ball out the net. Last season, Cheltenham had the best defence in the league. This year, I think the second. I think if Salford conceded less.
I think Salford have conceded less, yeah.
Right, yeah. And again, obviously they've got a good goalkeeper in Josh Griffiths, but you know the way he sets his sides up, that's the only reason they got to the playoffs last year. And it's funny because they spent 46 games defending brilliantly, went 2-0 up in the first leg of the playoffs and threw it away. The one game they need to not. And we could be talking about him as a League One manager now. He's a very good manager. I mean, you saw against Man City how defensively organised they were, and it took Foden buzzing around like a bee to break them up. Good manager, but I think there's got to be more attacking emphasis on Preston, so I'd say rather not Duff. Russell Martin, if I'm a Preston fan, I'm all over it. I'm not, so I don't want to go there.
I don't really have anything to add that. I think what Adam said there is that, I'd absolutely take Russell Martin. I think it's a good gamble to take. If he's as good as Adam's saying, then I'd be delighted with that appointment.
I can't say I want Dons or Cheltenham often, so I can't really say if I like this style of play, etc. But from what Adam said, it sounds promising.
What is he in the bookies odds? Is he high up or not?
I'm pretty sure he's like pretty much at the bottom. He's not even considered. I know he was high up on the Portsmouth list a couple of weeks ago, but I'm pretty sure. The only question I'd have for you, Adam, is you're such a big fan of him and he's doing all this good thing. They've got, I think, 60% possession average, which is higher than anyone else in the league, much higher, like 5% higher than everyone else. Passing accuracy is so much higher. And obviously they've got the keeper Fisher playing out like a right back at times. But the only thing I'm going to ask you is that MK Dons are mid-table, and they've got a good squad there.
They are, but they have just came up. And at the start of the season, it's funny because I've got my own podcast, and we were in the middle of the podcast, and it was the predictions podcast, and I had the MK Dons to potentially go down. And I'm on my phone and I see Scott Fraser signed for them. Straight away, I took them out. I was expecting them to be at the bottom. And I think, again, his stubbornness has got them where they are, because there's a lot more to football than results. You can't look at games one game at a time. It's got to be a long, sustainable process. And that is something that Russell Martin is very focused on. And it's something that is crying out at Preston. And I know you say in the mid-table, and, you know, you're giving us the stats about possession and all that. And if you put 2 and 2 together, it looks as if they were just wasting time kicking it in their own half. But they're not. They're getting the ball in the opposition's box far more than any other side in the league. They shouldn't be 10th. And the only reason, mid-table, the only reason they are mid-table is because of silly individual errors at the back. Whenever I'm thinking of MK Dons, they'll be cruising, you'll look, they'll score like 3 own goals or something, and they'll have chucked it away. It's not down to Russell Martin. Russell Martin is bringing everything good to MK Dons, and it's individual errors that's taking that away.
So he's the lower league Graham Potter then. That's what I got from that.
Yeah, exactly. And Mo knows how much I love Graham Potter.
Oh, I love Graham Potter. I'd have Graham Potter.
A lad from uni calls him, what's it, ex-Graham Potter. So like at the start, it's ex-Graham Potter.
I love Graham Pye. Moving on to the next one, Jack. I'll give you two at the same time, like I've just given Adam. First of all, former manager Alan Irvine, and another manager that's been bandied about. Some said they would hate to have him, and some are going on about how he will get results. Tony Pulis. So Tony Pulis, Alan Irvine.
Hell no for both of them. Well, I don't think Alan Irvine would come back anyway. I think he's had his time at the club, and I don't think it's right for a manager to come back to a football club. I think him and the project that he's got going with David Moyes at West Ham is really, really good. And Tony Pulis is just a definite hell no. Just again, not an exciting appointment whatsoever. Would be fine for a short-term appointment if I was kind of 17th in the Premier League, but I'm not. And I think Tony Pulis's wage would be absolutely astronomical for what he'd want to manage Preston North End. So for me, you're probably like hell no for both of them. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's pretty straightforward.
Agree.
For Tony Pulis, for example, we're all looking forward to going back to the ground. If Pulis gets appointed, it's not something going back to Deepdale. I don't want to be seeing going long to Jadon Stockley coming back, for an example, like Emil Reese every game. So it's not attractive football. It's not a manager neither that'll excite me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Pulis, obviously, I think he gets bandied about as a bad manager. He's not a bad manager. He's done good jobs at clubs before. He did very well at Crystal Palace, very well at Stoke. He didn't do an awful job at Middlesbrough, but
to be fair, even at Sheffield Wednesday, his last 2 games he won.
Yeah, I don't think it's a. I don't think it'll be. You wouldn't go down. It's like Neil Harris. You wouldn't go down, but I don't think you go up. And is it particularly inspiring, and the wages and everything? So I think it's completely unrealistic appointment. Anyway, I don't think it'd come to North End. Moving on, Mo, someone that's been bandied about quite a lot, and surprisingly was top of the bookmakers list yesterday. And Hull City fans were saying they'd drive him to Deepdale, despite them being top of the league. Grant McCann, what would you think of him, Mo?
It was one that certainly was an eye raiser. He's done okay in League One with like Peterborough, Doncaster, and Hull this season, of course, being top of the league. But his one season in the Championship, he finished 20th. I know it wasn't entirely his fault. He lost Bowen, Irvine, Grzycki. I think they were level on points before he went, but purely because of that season. It's not someone that excited me again. The Hull fans probably sum it up. They're saying they'll drive him to Deepdale, so he can't be someone that a highly rated manager, clearly.
Adam, what's your opinion on this, considering you're quite a big fan of the lower leagues? And like Mo said, he did a very good job at Doncaster, in my opinion, his one season there. Did a decent job with Peterborough. He's doing well with Hull. You can't say he's doing badly considering the top of the league. But the season in the Championship, well, it was a disaster.
Just look at Doncaster and Peterborough. They're both doing better without him. For me, League One is very, very funny when it comes to managers, because you don't need a good manager to get out the league, but a bad manager will keep you in the league. So it's like, I know he's top of the league, but no one in League One has been superb this season. I mean, everyone's been going on some horrendous runs, and the only reason they're still top is because everyone else has been going on horrendous runs at the same time. Nah, not for me. I think he's just so uninspiring. Malik Wilkes, Keane Lewis Potter, they've just been getting them the results, really. They're 2 superb wingers, nothing to do with what Grant McCann's doing. For me, for someone who's been a manager for a long time, he's the most step-in, like assistant manager type of thing. The way he comes across, you can find that you need someone a bit more powerful than that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm assuming Jack agrees because he's nodding. Moving on to the next person, we have got. However you look at it, it might be unrealistic, might not be. Again, I'll shoehorn 2 into 1. John Terry, the current Aston Villa assistant manager, and David Unsworth, the current Everton under-23s manager. Mo, any thoughts on these two?
John Terry, it won't be a bad appointment at all, but I just don't see us getting him. Just looking at former players such as Gerrard, Lampard, they've done okay, haven't they? I know Lampard couldn't get out of the Championship with a good Derby side, but it wouldn't be a bad appointment, and it promising just because the sort of loan players that you can attract when you have these managers, like when Lampard was at Derby and he was getting all sorts of players such as Mason Mount and Tomori, and you feel like these Chelsea youngsters, they do have some promising talent in the youth system. So I feel these are types of players that will help you get out of this division, such as like Anthony Gordon we have on loan, for example, a talented Everton player. So I would be happy with Terry coming in, but I just can't see it happening. With Unsworth, I'm not really sure on this one. You don't really hear of Unsworth recently of late. I feel like he did okay when he was at PNE, but just one of them never look back. Similar to the Irvine situation for me.
I really like the thought of John Terry. No, go on, Jack.
Yeah, sorry. I think Unsworth's taken more of a head of the academy at Everton. He still has bits and bobs to do the under-23 side, and let's not forget they've won 2 under-23 Premier League titles as Unsworth at the top of the tree there. For me, I wouldn't be opposed to David Unsworth coming in. Again, it's not like an exciting appointment, and it'd be similar to more of a Frankie McAvoy interim kind of basis if David Unsworth were to come in. Because let's not forget, although Frankie's done a press conference, there was that caveat that was left in North End's statement about how Frankie was going to take charge. It is the intent that Frankie's going to take charge of the last 8 games. So that could still change. So I wouldn't mind Unsworth coming in again to give a fair crack of the whip. And in terms of John Terry, I'm not really that bothered. If I wouldn't be that excited if he came. He might bring some great contacts, but he hasn't really done enough for me under Dean Smith to warrant him taking the Preston North End role. I think Aston Villa's success is down to one man, and that's Dean Smith. So yeah, John Terry for me is a definite no.
See, out of all the names that's been said, John Terry would be my number one. I'm not gonna lie. I just think, as Mo said, you've seen what Gerrard and Rooney's done, and Lampard, of course. Players win football matches, and if you can get some good names from Chelsea or Aston Villa, you never know. You know, you might be able to get Andre Green back for you as well.
But if you look at how much Derby spent on loan fees and wages, can we and where Mel Morris, is it Mel Morris? Yeah. The Derby owner, I think so, yeah. And like the financial state that they're in, for me, I can't see us going after. I can't see Ridsdale and Trevor Hemmings kind of sanctioning that kind of loan fee and wage contributions. I just can't see it. So it's all well and good having someone with those connections, but without the financial backing to do it, I can't see it happening.
In fairness, what's the chances of a club getting, for example, Mason Mount and Tomori? One's now one of the best players of Chelsea, and the other one's at AC Milan. There's another loan market to obviously that level, but I don't know. I just feel as if John Terry, I think he's worth taking a punt on him. Look, everything he's done in the game, everything he's learned under like Mourinho, Conte, people like that, Ancelotti, Hiddink, he's learned from every manager. And now he's obviously, he's not making the decisions, obviously Dean Smith is, but he's having a bit more control. And I don't know, I just think the only reason he's my first choice, if I was a Preston fan, is because I think every other name's just been, meh. You won't be bothered about anyone else. And I think this one, and to be honest, this is probably the worst time you could have sacked a manager because there is no one in the market. There's no one in the market at all. So take a punt on John Terry if I was you.
I've said,
sorry, man. Go on. Sorry.
I said last few weeks, the only reason I was just backing off getting rid of Neil is there's no one out there. Like these names that we're talking about, don't get me wrong, Phil Appleton's a decent manager. And there's been a couple of decent managers, but none of them are like wow, like that'd be a great appointment. That's the only reason, like Adam just said, like John Terry's just a bit different, a bit more of a high caliber manager. But I just thought like his wages will be high as well. We got to remember that. I don't think it's a realistic one, but it'd excite me personally anyway.
Nah,
I know
John's
he's
a
not
nice
on your
man. He
list.
might take a pay cut.
Yeah, yeah, doubt it. I know he's not on your list, Jack and Mo, but I'd absolutely love it if we went after Chris Wilder. Did a similar job to Neil in terms of taking Norwich up on a relatively small budget. Now he spent a bit in the January before they got up to bring in some experience to get them over the line. And I know he'll have a lot of takers in the summer if there's certain managerial vacancies arise in the Northeast specifically. But I would absolutely adore it if we got Chris Wilder, because again, similar to the Gareth Ainsworth conversation, that he would galvanise the fans to come back to Deepdale and to support the team. So I know he's pretty unrealistic, but that would be my number one, shoot for the stars, go after him and just pay what he wants to get him in the door.
He's 100% going to be managing Newcastle in the Championship next year.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
I think he'll go Celtic.
Celtic.
Yeah, no, I see. I agree, Jack. I mean, Chris Wilder would be a outstanding appointment, but when I did my thread on Twitter, I just thought like, he's never going to come towards it. Same with Eddie Howe, you know. It's just not. I even think John Terry was a bit unrealistic, because I think it screams to me as like someone that West Brom are going to get relegated and they're going to take a punt on John Terry, or Derby, or Blackburn if they get rid of Mowbray. Mm-hmm. Like, it just screams to me something that is out of North End's budget. In terms of the players he's going to bring in and him himself. In terms of David Unsworth, someone I'd personally like. I think it would be a decent appointment. So, Jack, it seems like we're kind of disagreeing on this. So, Jack, you get the final vote on this one.
I'd take him. I actually really like David Unsworth. I think he's a really solid man, really good professional manager, and would be a really good person to represent the brand, the face of Preston North End whenever we're on, in terms of the media, in terms of the rest of the country. So yeah, I'd be happy with David Unsworth.
He's on Quest? Or is that lower leagues? Is the Championship on Quest? Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, Derek McInnes, who left Aberdeen only a couple of weeks ago. Many people said that the natural parting of ways would be McInnes to come to North End and Neil to go to Aberdeen. 9 years at Aberdeen. He did all right, did quite well. He won a cup, finished second a couple of times, because once Rangers were back to their fourth run, it's hard to break into that Rangers Celtic top two. So he did a decent job with Aberdeen. I don't think they ever finished below fourth. So it's not even like this season they were fourth when he got sacked. It's not like he was having a disastrous season. So is it a safe appointment rather than an exciting appointment? I'm not so sure.
I want to say he came to Sunderland a few years ago and came on the academy and turned us down because he done his due diligence clearly. So he's a smart guy. But yeah, we were linked to him. It always worries me when a manager only has one club on the CV, because has it just fit perfectly? That's my only concern with stuff like that.
Yeah, he had that one good season when he finished second as well. Very good season, shall I say. It suits us a little bit because he's one of them managers that will stick around for a while, but I'm not sure again if that'll be one to excite me, but it wouldn't be the worst of appointments. He's one of them, he'll show a bit of loyalty and he'll stay for a couple of years like he did at Aberdeen, I think. He
has already failed at Bristol City though as well.
Yeah. I think it's a similar appointment to Neil Harris in terms of we won't go up, won't go down, just keep us where we're at.
Yeah, so we'll stick him in there. I'd rather not category. Adam, again, I'm just going to shoehorn quite a lot of names into this one. Mainly Kieran McKenna, Chris Davis, current Brendan Rodgers assistant. Kieran McKenna, obviously the number 2 at Man United. any name you can throw in there, you know, number 2 at a reasonable size club, you know, Michael Carrick, for example, Jody Morris. Like, what do you think of that type of appointment rather than a person? Because obviously we can't really judge the person, but that type of appointment.
Was Brendan Rodgers number 2 with him at Celtic, do you know, as well or not?
Yeah, he's been with him since his Reading days, so he's been everywhere with him.
Because all I'm thinking is, you saw how much Brendan Rodgers has took from Jose Mourinho in terms of training regimes and stuff. Could the same effect have happened with his number 2? That's the only one I'd be looking at. But again, scraping the barrel, isn't it? It really is scraping the barrel a bit. I think if you're looking at people's number 2s, you're probably only doing that for the loan market. Obviously, you saw what Ferguson was like, getting players off his dad, and I think if Peterborough was Ferguson at Hughes?
Yeah, he was.
Struggled.
So again, obviously getting players from Man United, I think that would be the only thing. But I don't know, number 2s are never for me.
I'd probably disagree a little on that one. I find quite exciting young manager looking to make a mark. I know, like, we're speaking about McAvoy a little bit about being a number 2, but for me, stereotypical number 2, like the Leicester one that we were just talking about, they've got potential and it's taking a little bit of a gamble. And if they have that hunger and desire to actually make a mark being a full-time manager, it could be a gamble that pays off and it could potentially get you promoted to the Premier League. That's how I see it personally.
It is exciting. I will give you that one. It is exciting. And like you say, if it comes off, then great. But to be fair, Preston are probably in a position where they can give someone a little bit of a risky job, because you'll never go down. So it's just a case of what will work to get us up.
I'm not so sure I'm so confident, Adam.
I actually really like the Kieran. Is it Kieran McDonald? Sorry, yeah, Kieran McKenna. Sorry, I actually really like that appointment. I think the knowledge that he'd picked up under Mourinho and Ollie Wallace has been there, and working with Michael Carrick, working with Darren Fletcher at United, and having that link between the United Academy, which as we all know, is probably the best academy in the country, would be a fantastic appointment, a really excited appointment. And for me, I think he probably would be within our budget as well. I think that would be a fantastic appointment. I really do. I think he'd bring like a fresh idea. And that's, again, we've spoken about it multiple times tonight, but we need that fresh idea. We need that fresh image. We need that fresh kind of impetus. And from someone who's coming from Manchester United and has the knowledge of, you know, the inner workings of building those foundations that we talked about tonight, that would be someone to really get behind and really back. Again, it all comes down to how well he's going to get back to the transfer market and to get the players in that he wants. But for me, Kieran McKenna would be a really exciting appointment.
All I'll add to that one is, you've seen Man United number 2s go on to get jobs in the past with René Mullenstein of Fulham. Obviously, Phil Neville, he's not setting the world alight, is he? I don't know. It's like I say, I know everyone's different, but there was that Portuguese bloke as well years ago.
Carlos Queiroz.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he managed Portugal, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't know. I think if you're going for the number 2, I'd probably go with the Leicester one, but I'd probably stay away from both.
Yeah, I think the important thing to recognise is, even though the amount of times I said we're looking for a manager, we're actually looking for a head coach. So it's showing that we're going down a different model. You know, usually a head coach is more, they're just a coach, and then they pick the players on a Saturday sort of thing. Like, they actually go down on the training ground and actually coach the players, and that's what these number 2s will be good at. They'll be some of the best in the world, because they're doing. I mean, especially this Chris Davis, who's doing it with Brendan Rodgers, who. They've done fantastic everywhere they've been, really. And then again, Kieran McKenna, very highly rated, being a coach all his life, because he was unable to make it as a professional player at Tottenham. He won the under-18 Premier League with Man United. won, I think, the FA Youth Cup with Spurs under 18s when he was there as well. So I think they're all good options, number 2. And I personally think it's something that will excite me because it's the unknown, because you don't really know how they're going to play. Are they going to be Brendan Rodgers number 2 at 2.0, or are they going to be a man of their own? Yeah, and they'll get time. They're young, and they're going to make they're going to make mistakes, and hopefully they would get time. So I'm going to start with Jack and Mo. I think I'm going to put both of them in. What we're saying, I'd have him or top. I want.
Well, it depends who it is, but I'd probably put in the second bracket. But if there was an option in between, that's what I'd personally go with. So we'll take.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put them in there. Okay, so we've got 2 managers left on the list. I'm just going to throw them out there. First of all, we've got Carl Robinson, who is unliked by a section of North End supporters for a few of his comments about North End in the past. But he was part of that fantastic race. Well, I say fantastic. It was in the end, but that fantastic race to the Championship in which MK Dons picked us to that number 2 spot, where Carl Robinson got them promoted. He's currently at Oxford, had a spell at Charlton. Carl Robinson, does this excite anyone?
I watched Oxford last year. I lived in Oxford where my job was, and I went to go and watch them a couple of times. The football he plays okay. I mean, it's nothing it's not going to set the world on fire, but it's decent enough stuff. Again, I think it's a safe appointment. I think we've said this before in the poddy, but I think it's the same as a Neil Harris appointment. I just think, he's not going to take us into the Premier League. And well, for me, he's more of a relegation risk than anything else, just because of his experience at this level.
If you're looking at the job he's doing at Oxford this season, if they didn't have any defensive injuries, they'd be in the playoffs for me, which is obviously where he got them last year. So, but yeah, I'm with Jack. It's just, he doesn't, when you hear his name, you're not hoping that you appoint him. It's just even when he's got a job, he's in every single race for a new job. He's the new Alan Kirbishley for me, but he doesn't really do it.
Yeah, what them two have said.
Yep, no, I agree. So the last one, there's not been much talk about him, and maybe rightly so, because he was only a manager in England for 5 months in charge of Watford. But to me, if he's going to stay in England, he's not going to go to a club of Watford's calibre again, and that's Vladimir Ivic, who was, however you look at it, harshly, justly sacked by Watford whilst we were 5th in the league. But he's got a good track record in foreign countries. He's gone and won the Israel Premier League with Maccabi Tel Aviv, I think it is. He came second with PAOK in Israel when he won the title twice in the normal stage before they split off. He was unbeaten in both those seasons, so he only lost 2 games in charge of them. He won Greek Cups and all this. And he's a bit of a disciplinarian. So it's the question of whether would you take the gamble on Ivic? You've never seen a foreign manager in charge.
I think he's the worst name that's been said. I've watched
really
it a handful of times under his leadership, and I couldn't tell you how they played. I just know that they'd try and get the ball to Pedro, and hopefully he scored. There was nothing to his game plan. I can't give him words because there's just nothing. Watford didn't play. And in fact, Mo, can you remember when he got appointed? I said to you, he should have gone 3 months sooner.
Yeah, he did.
5th in league. Honestly, it was papering over so many cracks. And you can see how much they're flying at the moment, because they'll go up automatically, hands down.
I'll be honest, when they played us at Vicarage Road, I thought they were a decent outfit.
Yeah.
But I don't week in, week out. And you said to me that that's probably the best they've played all season. So it just made me think. And then we've seen that Watford have only improved. But that appointment, I don't think it'd be the worst appointment, but probably not for me. But a foreign manager, it probably would excite me itself. It's just different. It's different to what Preston have ever had in the past. So a foreign, but I just can't see it happening, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't. It's not an appointment that's going to galvanise the fan base either. It's not going to excite the fan base. And I don't know about you boys, but I think he might cost a pretty penny as well, considering his success over abroad and what his agent will probably tout as being successful. Whether that's transferable into the English game, who knows? But yeah, for me, it's a definite no-no.
Yeah, I purely threw him in there because obviously we're going down. It looks like we're going to go down maybe a Barnsley route, taking Barnsley's recruitment analysis and the head coach route. So I just thought throw Ivic's name in there as well. Kind of to throw a spanner into the works because every other manager we've named other than Wagner has been British. So other than actually David Ortell, Gibraltar, isn't he? Actually, now I think about it. So yeah,
someone else.
Is that British? Gibraltar? Are they British?
Yeah, part of their British territory. Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
Someone else who hasn't been mentioned, and it's funny because I put a tweet on yesterday about him, and Mo actually told me that he's on the bookies odds now, and I clicked on, I searched his name, and my tweet was the first time his name was mentioned. Lee Carsley. I don't know if you saw it, but
it's on Sky Bet tonight.
Yeah, he's England under-20s manager. And for me, I just think, I know it was 5 years ago, but he stood in at Brentford for a handful of games, didn't look out of place. And now he's got a job in the England under-20 setup. I don't think that's a bad appointment because the way style football is put across the England youth levels now is they're all taught the same style of football. It's all like, basically, each manager is told how each side should be set out. So, style of football ticks the boxes. He's got the relationships with the England youth players. Loan market ticks the boxes, and you could get him. He'd be on the cheap. I think that would be a good appointment. But I suppose that's
a fair point. I think that's a fair point. But again, I don't know. I think it'd be similar to like a Paul Simpson appointment that we got in 2006. He went on to do some stuff with England. I don't know. I think there's some better candidates that we've spoken about tonight than Lee Carsley, but your points pretty fair and pretty well made. So yeah, again, I think he'd be like in the middle for me. I wouldn't be upset if we got him, but I wouldn't be kind of massively excited.
I'll agree with you there, Jack.
My worry is that the man above him is Adi Boothroyd, and then the man above him is Gareth Southgate, and neither of them I think are brilliant managers. I don't think Southgate or Boothroyd are superb. I know Boothroyd had a spell in the Prem with Watford in 2006, but and it's like Lee Carsley, like you say, they have a certain way of playing at England, but is it? I don't know. He was the assistant manager as well, weren't he, at Birmingham under Steve Cottrell, and I don't think Steve Cottrell's a particularly good second-tier manager. So is he really learning the ropes? Like if you had the option of Lee Carsley, Chris Davis, Kieran McKenna, Michael Carrick, Jody Morris, those sort of names, I think I'd have Carsley at the bottom of my list, but that's just me. So before we wrap it up, has anyone got any other names that they'd like to throw into the hat, or is everyone content with the sort of names that have been mentioned?
Just a quick yes or no, because I've mentioned it to Mo before, and his answer's no. If you got offered Lee Johnson tomorrow, would you take him or not?
Yeah.
No.
What a way to end the podcast.
Only because of his work at Sunderland, because he's doing a fantastic job there. But yeah. Right. Anyway, this has been the Spark podcast. Thank you to Mo and Adam for joining us today. Mo, you'll have some more content coming up, won't you?
Yeah, I'm covering the EFL and English football.
Excellent. And Jack, have you got any swimming planned, or is it all stopped at the moment?
Yeah, so at the minute, I'm just focusing on me. I'm focusing on raising awareness for people suffering from rare diseases. So I'm part of a campaign called I Am Number 17, which aims to raise awareness for people suffering with rare diseases. 1 in 17 people in the UK are affected in some way by rare diseases. So I'm a big advocate for that, and I'm doing a lot at the minute with my social media to try and push that message and just to try and raise awareness and create conversation about people suffering from rare diseases. So that's what's going on with me, and obviously following everything to do with North End.
Excellent. So is there any way we can find that on the internet and your Twitter handle?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at swimmer_JB10, or on Instagram it's at Bridgie94. And please feel free to drop into my messages if you want to talk about anything to do with either Preston or rare diseases. It'd be a pleasure.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today, fellas. It has been an honour.